What's up, YouTube? Capital G here. Got some Orcus duels for you guys to check out. And Orcus are obviously an archetype that are definitely rogue tier in my opinion. I feel like Konami really dropped the ball with one aspect of this archetype, and it really is the reason why I don't think that it has broken through on the competitive level. And I don't think it's the monsters or the spells. I think that those are all fine. I think it's the traps of the deck. Orcus don't have a whole lot of disruption that they can put out there. You know, when you look at the traps, they have kind of like a safe zone type card, and they have a battle trap, but those aren't the type of cards that you want going first in today's Yu-Gi-Oh! The deck really needed some traps of like pretty much what the Salamangreats got. Like Salamangreats have two trap cards that are really good. One of them is an Infernity Barrier. The other one's kind of like a Fire Lake / Regeki Break card, and those are good enough to stop your opponent to at least hold them over into your turn. This deck didn't get those type of good traps, and that's kind of a shame because it doesn't have a lot of inherent disruption, although this guy is actually using a Link monster you don't see summon that often to basically make up for that and be his disruption. So it is kind of cool that the fact that a lot of the monsters let you special summon, whether it be from the graveyard or from your deck. A lot of good monster effects activate in the graveyard. When the deck does get the Orchestrated Nightmare, kind of like the final version of Ib in Savage Strike, that will obviously help the deck out a lot because it's kind of like a Foolish Burial. That Foolish Burial transitions into other cards being activated from the graveyard, and that's pretty cool. So this is the monster that he basically uses for his disruption, and it kind of makes up for the fact that, like I said, Orcus don't have a lot of disruptors during the opponent's turn. He's using Topologic Bomber Dragon, and the cool thing is, even though Bomber Dragon tries to activate this big guy right here, the Orchestrion, he can't be destroyed when he's actually linked. He can't be destroyed by battle or card effects, and the same thing goes with Longirsu as well. So you can summon those monsters to the link points of the Topologic Bomber Dragon during your opponent's turn, as I believe he's not doing it yet. He's using the Orchestrated Nightmare, and you can constantly nuke your opponent's board before they get their extra deck monsters on the field, whether they're link monsters or Xyz or whatever. You can constantly use that. I think this time he might be trying to summon back the Longirsu. So nope, I'm trolling. It's still not Longirsu. I'm trolling. I thought he was gonna summon There it is. Finally, he gets Longirsu. And even though Topologic Bomber Dragon is trying to activate, it cannot destroy these monsters. They just cannot be destroyed by card effects when they are linked up. So it's a way of using that effect constantly during your opponent's turn. And keep in mind that, Topologic Bomber Dragon obviously is not a hard once per turn, and also it's a card that gives you 3 zones to activate that effect. So you can get that effect off a bunch of different times. And you know what's funny? I actually feel quite bad for Orcus as an archetype, especially when I did my ban list. A lot of people were pointing out Orcus is like one of the only archetypes in the game that uses a lot of broken cards, but in fair ways. Like, they use Armageddon Knight and they use Nightmare Mermaid, and these are cards that I'm like, yeah, ban that one, ban that one. You see he's using Summon Sorceress. A lot of people want that card banned too. They use these cards, but they use them in like fair ways, but no other archetype does that. Like, every other archetype just uses these cards in broken ways, and you want the cards banned, but Orcus is going to be the deck that suffers the most because they use all of these cards. So his opponent's activating, is that special schedule? Urgent schedule. Yeah, he's activating urgent schedule to get 2 monsters, and here is when you start activating those Monster Reborn effects. You bring back the Longirsu. Longirsu activates Topologic Bomber Dragon, and woof, just clear the board out, 3 monsters down. And it's really just nice because even when your opponent tries to build that board up, he's like, hold up, son, you got 2 more monsters? Nah, bro, I'm gonna activate Topologic Bomber Dragon again. And you can see that Bomber Dragon took out 5 monsters in just that single turn. And usually Orcus have enough offense because their link monsters are actually quite big. The Orchestrion, 3,000 attack, Longirsu is 2,500, plus you have Bomber Dragon. Usually you can just OTK your opponent as long as they're not running like any battle traps or anything like that. I guess if your opponent does maybe like Ghost Ogre, the Topologic Bomber Dragon, that might be a little bit of a drag, but I'm gonna show you guys one last duel, and you're going to see what type of field Orcus can kind of play through, because he's been going first in all these duels, playing against Thunder Dragons in this one. And Thunder Dragons are going to open up really good. At first it wasn't really looking all that impressive. I was like, man, this field's looking kind of Kappa, but don't worry, he's definitely going to get there. There's Colossus part 1, then there is Titan, and then there's Colossus part 2, and you also have a Rivalry of Warlords. So I mean, I'm looking at that, and let's be real, decks like Sky Strikers or Trickstar would basically auto fucking lose to this. You got 2 Colossus and you got a Titan. He has a way of activating the Titan in hand, plus you're not going to be able to do a lot of expanding upon your board because he has Rivalry of Warlords, which obviously isn't going to affect him. All his monsters monsters are thunder, but it's really like this deck can kind of play through that. Obviously, all the Orcust monsters themselves are machine, and even when he flips over the rivalry, as long as he gets the Armageddon Knight effect off, that's really all he kind of wants. Everything else that he is going to summon is basically going to be machine, although this does obviously cut off his ability to go into Topologic Bomber Dragon, which honestly might not be that good for this match anyways. Like going second, maybe going first, it might have been a little better. What's cool about Galatea is that, you know, you can activate her effect to get the field spell or to get whatever cards you want straight on the field, so you don't have to add these cards to your hand. And this is when the Big Daddy is actually going to come in, as long as this card is linked, as we saw in the previous duels, cannot be destroyed by card effects or by battle. So as long as this card is linked, his opponent is kind of SOL. This is where maybe Thunder Dragons need that Link monster from the Link Frames Pack 2, although I don't even know if they're really going to summon that card all that often. Like, he just needs, I was thinking maybe Borreload Dragon, something that could just snatch steal it, but now he just activated this one right here, the Orcust Core. This does make it so that the monsters, or his monster, the Orchestrion, can't be targeted by card effects, so, you know, it's like another layer of protection. And I think that really he's just trying to have this guy survive until his turn to where he can activate the effect. He has to get 4 of these dudes banished, and then he can actually kind of have like a lose 1 turn effect where monsters that aren't linked up, they become 0 attack and they can't activate their effect. So he is just trying to load up his graveyard, or excuse me, load up his banish zone at this point. He needs 1 more to be banished. Boom, there's his 4. At that point, he can activate the effect, put them all back in his deck. Wait, I'm sorry, is he 3? Okay, for some reason I was thinking that he was 4. He's 3, my bad. Once he does that, all he does is cut the Thunder Dragon monsters down to size, and he can start ramming those monsters into his opponent's Thunder Dragons. And it's kind of like he's attacking them directly at that point, because they are 0 attack. They cannot, you know, they can't activate their effects. But I thought that this was incredibly impressive, you know, going second, playing against a Titan plus double Colossus plus a copy of Robbery of Warlords, and still being able to kind of outgrind the Thunder Dragon deck. Although, again, he probably should have went for Borreload Dragon. That would have been able to steal this. Maybe he is able to win at that point. Not exactly sure. If he had a Borreload Dragon in his extra deck, I think a lot of people just drop Borreload Dragon for Boar Sword because it's kind of like a kill your opponent type card. But Borreload can still be very useful when you have these monsters that can't be destroyed by, you know, battle or card effect, can't be targeted, etc., etc. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed that duel. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna pause because I'm interested in seeing this deck, as I don't think I've showed Orcust on this channel post Savage Strike with the you know, the orchestrated Nightmare. I want to go ahead and look at it. Alrighty, so here's what the deck looks like on paper. You know what? Maybe if Armageddon Knight gets banned, maybe the deck wouldn't be so bad, because they would still have Dark Grepher. Excuse me, to basically facilitate the same type of plays. It just wouldn't be as freelo as like Armageddon Knight, just, you know, summon, get any of your Orcust monsters to the grave. All right, so the way the Orcust monsters work in the graveyard, this dude special summons from the hand, this one special summons from the deck, and then this one special summons from the graveyard. They're all different levels because, you know, it's a Link archetype. They don't want you XC summoning and whatnot. And, you know, the deck has other ways, like this one, you know, can activate where if it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a World Legacy monster from your hand, which isn't really that relevant outside of the crown, if I'm not mistaken. But you banish this one, and then you can special summon one of your Orcust monsters from the graveyard. This is really good for getting your Link monsters, and it's basically like having just another kind of you know, Monster Reborn, as you also get with the horrors. So you do get lots of Monster Reborns, as we saw, and that's best when used either for like summoning the Link monsters back for maybe attacking your opponents, or just used with like Topologic Bomber Dragon and constantly you know, using that. Another thing about Topologic Bomber Dragon is a lot of these Orcust monsters, they lock you into the dark attribute for the rest of the turn. Bomber Dragon and all the Topologic monsters are, I mean, they're dark attributes, so, you know, just kind of does make sense. But yeah, I just wish Orcust had better like defensive tools, because like this card's okay, it's like semi-stun. It can negate the effects of like a monster that was special summoned from the extra deck, but that's kind of it. That deals with maybe like one Link monster your opponent has. But I feel like if Orcust had better traps, as obviously he's using the orchestrated core, but I imagine he's only going to use it on, if I can find, yeah, he's only going to use it on Orchestrion. Like, this is the only monster that for the most part I'd imagine he's going to use it on, because this guy also is going to be protected from battle and card effects when it's linked up. It can't be destroyed by those. So if it can't be targeted outside of Borreload, it's going to be damn near unkillable to most decks unless you have some non-targeting removal or something like that. Interesting that he's playing Spear Mode. I guess that these are just like the go second cards. I mean, personally, I would probably just like drop this and then maybe just play some impermanences, so I have like 5 at least go second options to get my chances of opening with one of those go second cards up to be a lot higher. But Orcust it's a fun deck, and it might get hit inadvertently because of the ban list with things like Armageddon Knight and maybe Nightmare Mermaid, but I think that it'll survive. Hopefully it'll get more support. I'm not sure because it is a World Legacy archetype and it is getting support in Savage Strike. Maybe Konami will give it 1 or 2 more cards. It's not in the anime or anything like that, but if they do give it cards, I kind of feel like they need to just be like traps, and they need to be some type of disruptive traps. A breakthrough skill, an Icarus attack. Those type of cards would definitely boost this deck, especially considering the monsters themselves are hella expendable because you have so many Monster Reborns in the archetype.